Listen, I realized the best grade I ever got in English was a C. And I probably only got that because I was a pretty good athlete. But one of the things that I pride myself on is that I do not hardly ever re-record anything. For whatever reason, this is the 5th time I've tried to say welcome everybody to another episode of 8192 The Truth. This is Joel D. Supernaw, and for my partner, Kevin, Brother Sinir, let's have some fun. Boom, I'm in. So listen, I want to talk about Brother Sin. I want to talk about Kevin for a second. Kevin's an MMA fan, okay? I'm an MMA fan too, but I had a unique experience that I became an MMA fan before it was cool, and all of the guys that I knew that kind of were surrounding me turned out to be what is now a fair statement to say, legends of the sport. Randy Couture, Danny Henderson, Matt Lindland, Evan Tanner, Chael. They all fought in the back of a car dealership that me and Chris Lauschie and Matt Lindland started in 2000. The reason, quite frankly, that we started it was because me and Chris really got involved in Matt not making the Olympic team and then making the Olympic team. So it was a really neat thing the way it played out. And when the sport, man, I made, Jesus, I could write a book on the mistakes I made, and every week I could add a new chapter. But the big one is I had an inside track to being a sponsor of the UFC. I could have put USAAuto.com, USAAutoWholesale.com on the mat at UFC for $5,000 or $10,000. I had the money. I could have done that. Yeah, it would have been a stretch, but we didn't know this sport was going to blow up. That was one of my. That is, that one hurts. That one hurts because I could have just stayed in the back, training in the back, put USAAutoWholesale.com on that mat for as long as it took until somebody just bought that website. Till some dealership just paid me, $1 million for that website. Just kept the doors open. Anyway, I didn't. Well, Brother Sin is, and in the over the course of 15, 18 years, I've had an opportunity to meet hundreds and hundreds of professional fighters. Had a little time to fight myself. Fought, I think 5 or 6 times. Had my opinion on these fighters because I know them. There's some cool ones. I love this. I love the sport, but far and away, they're spoiled, self-entitled athletes. That's who they are. Sin, on the other hand, he's a successful businessman. He's a good family man. He still looks up to these fighters. He still looks up to a good many of these fighters. He doesn't know that not only are they human, they've got a lot of personal holes in their game. So now I have set him up tomorrow to interview a legend of the sport, a friend of mine, somebody that does have good, solid human character, has helped me out on many occasions, and is a true legend of the sport, is a founding father of this sport, Randy Couture. Now, Sin's either going to, I know he's moving and he's doing this, that, and the other, but he has a 2 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Eastern time slot to interview Randy. He's either going to make it He's either going to make it, he's either going to answer the bell, or he's going to tap. He's going to, I can't do it. I got this going on. I got that going on. It is up to Brother Sin to handle that interview. My belief is we can do something with that we can introduce something to the fans. I'm not big on having guests unless I can sit down right next to them. It's not a lot of fun for me. I also don't believe I'm the best person over the phone to interview someone. I have noticed that Kevin is great at it. When he does something and he asks me questions, I think he's really, really good at it. So I think we can turn a part of this show into where Kevin does interviews, where Kevin interviews, whether it's athletes or business people or whatever. I think he will be really, really good at that. I don't think I would be very good at it, but he's got to answer the bell tomorrow. Sin's got to answer the bell tomorrow, and he's a Randy Mark. His dad's a Randy. I mean, everybody's a Randy Mark. He's a Randy Mark. So we're going to see if he's calm and cool under pressure, and ask good questions, or he just marks out and is like, fighter, I love you. I love you. You're the greatest. This is all true. I will have already done this episode because I have my phone on airplane mode, so I can't get any text. I will already know by the time this episode is finished, which is 20, 30 minutes from now. By the time he posts it, I will know if I'm interviewing Brother Randy tomorrow, or Kevin is interviewing Brother Randy tomorrow. So I want you guys to give Kevin or me some good Randy questions. And I ask you this. If it's about a fight, make it so good that I sit back and say, wow, that's a really good question. Don't mark out and say anything what the reporters always say. Ask a good question. What would a good question be? I think a good question would be, from your vantage point now, not exactly right now, what, and knowing everything you know about this sport and how it's changed, what is some advice that you would give yourself, not fight-wise, but maybe business-wise, maybe personal-wise? What advice would you give yourself if Randy Couture today could talk to, and you could put any time Randy Couture, Randy Couture before you fought Tim Sylvia. It's got nothing to do with fighting. So what are just that period of your life, whatever you were going through, what is some advice that today Randy would give that guy? And then it is fight based a little bit, but it's not. That would be, I believe, would be a good question. So send Brother Sin or myself some questions. Put them on Twitter. Jojo at Jojo34. Is it Jojo3434? I believe it's either Jojo34 or Jojo3434 at Twitter. I don't know what Kevin's is. You can ask him some of these things. I mean, our numbers and our rankings are going through the roof, and still Kevin's doing some unique things, and we're getting in some unique markets. As a matter of fact, there is a European radio station that plays our podcast. That's neat. Kevin had to see, hey, why are our numbers going through the roof over in Europe? Well, some radio station in the middle of the night plays our podcast, or bits and snippets of it. I have no idea. He came to me last week and told me about that, because quite frankly, I'm like, wow, these numbers are crazy. Gonna have to make some loot. off these numbers. If you guys keep listening, I probably can't sing well. All right. So we got that. We got Brother Randy coming on. Either I'm going to interview him or Brother Sin's going to interview him. I hope it's Brother Sin because he has the cool equipment. If not, it's going to be a bootleg job from me, Joel. All right. Did you watch the Oscars? See, I did. I love the Oscars. I love the Oscars for a couple reasons. My mom loved the Oscars. We watched the Oscars every year. Every year I could remember, we would watch the Oscars. It makes me think about my mom. It wasn't nearly, I think it's always been political. I think the entertainment, the people in the entertainment world believe it is their goal sometimes to make a political statement. Now, Kevin, being a diehard bandwagon Trumpy, he's as Trumpy as Miss H is anti-Trumpy. Within reason, Kevin will at least admit some form of the Trumpy's madness, where he did admit that, making the teachers the responsible for killing, prospective active shooters in the school was a bad idea. He did admit that, but he is still a Trumpy. He is still through and through a Trumpy. I don't know what happened at the beginning of the show, but apparently it upset Kevin. They ruined the show. So, knowing him, he probably shut it off. He probably threw the baby out with the bathwater. It annoys me when they make a political statement either way, whether it's to the right or to the left. Yes, most actors gear towards the liberals. They do not gear towards conservative. So I notice it. I didn't notice that part. Maybe I caught it a little bit late. Maybe I didn't tune in. But again, I like the Oscars. I didn't. Yeah, I noticed some kumbaya and how everybody should be treated well. But I didn't really feel a huge political overtone. I enjoyed it like I always enjoyed it. Some people, it's pretty emotional. It's the biggest award you can win in Hollywood. Kobe won an award for writing a short film, a short animation. He said he knew that it had to be an animation after he wrote it. I think that was really cool. So there was a lot of high points. The gal that won the Best Actress award, having all the women stand up and basically say, hey, look around you. At the end of the day, we white men are the majority. We are the majority, and everybody else wants to cut in to our limelight. That's what they should do. Now, us as white men, we shouldn't be beat for saying, hey, we like being cool. We like being the majority. There's two sides of everything. And I enjoyed the Oscars. There was one that I didn't enjoy. There was an award ceremony where they did the music. Was it the Emmys? Where they did this big inclusion thing and everybody can come in and live in this country, which I don't agree with. I mean, there's dangerous elements in this country, as well as the dangerous elements that are not from the outside. But mentally ill people that are trying to become famous and do that with violence. But anyway, overall, I liked the Oscars going into it. Whether I agreed with whoever was going to make a political statement or not, I was going to watch the Oscars, and I was going to take it for what it is. And I hope you did that too. There is a exodus. I believe, maybe that's not the word. I believe that because there are so many people on the right and the left that cannot grab any common ground, I believe there's going to be a spot at some point in the political world for somebody that's in the middle. That's like, why, guys, man, there's got to be something worth taking from this side and this side that we can move forward as a country and do well. I think that's the biggest thing that's wrong right now. Just looking at it, like, why we're all Americans here? Why can't we figure out how to bridge this gap and move forward? I will tell you right now, I will be really, really disgusted if the simple common sense portion of the gun control is not enacted. What's it hurt moving it back to 21? And what does it hurt doing more strict background checks? You know, why do you need the gun right now? If you need this gun right now, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. So, I hope that. I hope that. I really do. So, we had an event this weekend in the UFC. Like right now, it's a tough time of the year for me. There's no football going on. There's no baseball going on. It leaves NBA basketball, which I'm not really in tune with. It's not something I'll watch the finals. I might watch a couple games of the playoffs as a sports fan. I'll keep up with it and see who's doing what. I watch SportsCenter. If somebody scores 59 points, I'll watch it. If there's some kind of brouhaha, like Chris Paul with the Los Angeles Clippers, they made a thing out of it last week. I'll dig into it, but overall, I don't watch that. So it's a downtime. Baseball hasn't started. We do have NCAA basketball, which I'm a huge, huge fan of the Kansas Jayhawks. I went to Kansas for a couple of years, met Miss H at Kansas. It's fun to be a Jayhawk fan because there's Jayhawk fans all over the country, kind of like the Cubs, and they're good every year. I mean, they've won 14 Big 12 championships in a row. That's never been done before. This particular team has overperformed. And they were looking at a number one seed and they got blown out by Oklahoma State, who is on the bubble of making the tournament. That's going to probably drop them to a 3 seed. With this team, it doesn't matter. For them to get to the Final Four, they're going to have to play their A game. They're going to have to continue to overperform. Their shots, they take a lot of 3-point shots. Their shots are going to have to drop. I tell you what I did like that happened this week. You heard me complaining about the FBI investigation into the NCAAs. Sean Miller of Arizona, after taking a game off when it was brought to the public eye that he was recorded on a device talking about paying their superstar freshman basketball player $100,000 or something in the mix. So he wasn't with the team when that news came out. Internally, it looks like Arizona did a little investigation into it, and then he came back out and said, hey, This is BS. It's BS to me. It's BS to our program. It's BS to our students. It's BS to our players. It's BS to my family. Took a stand for himself. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. I hope he's not doing this because they've got a really good team. They could go deep into the tournament. They could possibly win the NCAA basketball championships. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. I hope he's vindicated. And I hope if they're not in KU's bracket that they make it to the Final Four and we play him in the finals. I like that. I hope it's true. I hope he is innocent. Hope his basketball program is innocent. I just don't believe that the way business is run in the NCAAs should continue the way it does. It's as close to slave labor as you can have without the labor board coming in and shutting everybody down. We had the NCAA wrestling conference tournaments this week. A couple things happened, and I'm going to have to figure it out. A couple guys in the Big 12, Nick Suriano, who was the number 1 seed, and Jason Nolf, who was the number 1 seed, who will still, they both of them, prospectively, will be ranked number 1 going into the tournament in 2 weeks, withdrew from the Big Ten tournament. And apparently there's some kind of bylaws that you can do that. I don't know why Nick would do it, other than the fact that he's got to wrestle most of the same people at the NCAA tournament. That this is just speculation. I do know Nolf is struggling with some injuries, but I want to get to the bottom of that. I want to do a show on the NCAA tournament coming up. Maybe we can have Chael on the show. If not, I will reach out to a local wrestling person that knows the NCAAs, which is few and far between, to tell you the truth. You would be surprised. You would think that every high school kid, every good wrestling high school kid would know what's going on in the NCAAs, and they don't. They don't, and they never have. Very rarely will you find a kid, parent, coach that is in tune with what's going on. So I'm gonna seek out. I'm gonna see if I can do a show on the NCAAs. But what did happen is Kyle Snyder, world champ, Olympic champ, NCAA champ, two-time NCAA champ, came back and beat Adam Kuhn from Michigan 4-2 in overtime. There's a good chance the next time they meet is going to be in the finals. There's also a very good chance that's going to go overtime. What a great rivalry. Looking forward to the NCAA wrestling tournament. Covered NCAA basketball. The fights this weekend. I'm so glad that I didn't pay $60 for that card, but I still watched it. I'm not going to tell you how I watched it. I'm not going to admit to anything. Maybe I watched it at somebody else's house. Maybe I watched it at a bar. But maybe I didn't. I'm not going to admit to how I did watch that card. It was okay at best. There was some neat things that happened. I think on the prelims, Alex Hernandez kind of came out and made a statement against Beneil Dariush, knocking him out in a minute and 37 seconds. See, when something like that happens and then the guy comes out and said, "I told you so," see, that's a guy I want to hear about. So I went in and learned a little bit about Alex Hernandez. That's a guy I'd like to get on the show before he gets too much shine. You've got to grab these guys before they get too much shine. So when they get all of the shine that they're going to get, now it might be a little bit too late for this guy because he went and starched old Dariush Whereas we're grabbing Jake Smith and Ricky Simone. We're grabbing them early on. Maybe we can border it to this. I think we're going to have Anthony Smith on. He's the 185, 6'4", 185 pounder that has moved up to 205. I think he's going to be a star. He's already in the UFC, but he's had some losses, he's been in and out. But again, I think a part of this show should be us being the underdog, kind of wrapping our arms around the other underdogs. It's so hard to be a top UFC fighter because for every guy that is on the pay-per-view, there's 5 or 6 guys that are just as good that will never even make it into the promotion. I keep telling you how good Ricky Simone is. Chael said it before I did. But in fairness to me, I didn't know who he was. We walked into the room. I watched the practice. There's a bunch of killers in that practice. And I singled out one guy, and I said, who in the hell was that? And it was Ricky. There was one guy in that room who was a killer. The Sean O'Malley kid that got all the pub and push and this, that, and the other, I think he can win some fights. I don't think he's nearly as good as the hype around him. And I believe Ricky Simone would run through him like butter. He would put on a clinic. He would hit him. He would hit him with big overhand rights. He would get in the clinch. He would take him down, and he would just pound him out for 3 rounds or stop him. That fight may never happen. Well, Ricky's going to get in the UFC. You're going to hear about Ricky. But you got a guy like Jake Smith. Jake's another guy that he could have been on the outside. He could have never made it into Bellator. I think he's going to do real well. But this card, to stay on point, it wasn't pay-per-view worthy. The fight of the night was, the coming out party for Brian Ortega. It was hard to watch, man. It's hard to watch an icon, a legend go down like that. Edgar has more wins left in him. But at the end of the day, nobody ever leaves this sport unscathed. If Conor walks away, if Conor's able to walk away, which I don't think he will. He needs that shine so bad. If Conor's able to walk away, he'll be the only person that ever got out unscathed. There's a natural progression with this thing. And that progression is you leave beat up, and demolished. Now, I think Edgar's going to come back and get some wins. But for a guy that has followed Frankie and has rooted for him as long as I have, I can also say there is a change. There is, and this, I consider myself an old school kind of guy. There is this new guard coming up, and some of them, man, they are really, really, really good. This Brian Ortega guy, to come out and knock Frankie out on his feet, that's never been done before, and to just have confidence is such a killer. And that guy is a star. That guy's a star whether he can beat Holloway or not. That guy's going to be around for a while. He's got a good message. He's got a good story. He's got a good look. Even T-City's kind of a cool nickname. That was hard to watch, but, hats off to Brian Ortega. That's a feel-good story. And it doesn't always have to be the guy making, doing the look at me that becomes a star. Sometimes a guy's just going to go out there and do it with his skill, And then you're going to learn about him, and you're going to say, wow, that's a cool story. That's a good guy. That was my takeaway from Brian Ortega. He's an easy guy to root for. Will I root for him against Max Holloway? Probably not. Max, I've been rooting for Max for a while. Again, I'm a fan of this sport. I don't act like I'm anything else. I am not a reporter. I am not a prognosticator. I'll get on hot streaks. As a matter of fact, Lad's had a tough run since he was 3-5 this weekend, or 4-5. He is 4-5 this weekend. That's the first time he's had a losing record. That's a lot of fights to pick too. But I'm a fan, so I'm going to root for Max because I've been rooting for him longer. But if Brian wins, it's a win-win situation. Cyborg fighting the gal. The blonde-haired gal, it was what it was. Cyborg ran through her. And now what? Now what do you do with Cyborg? Well, they're already promoting Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. The problem with that, have they never watched how this always works out? It just happened this weekend. It just happened this weekend with Frankie losing to Ortega. They had a fight made, which was Holloway versus Frankie. They've pubbed it up twice. Now that fight's gone. Granted, a star was made, and I think they'll do okay with Ortega versus Holloway. But Amanda Nunes has a fight with Raquel Pennington already booked. So they're talking about Cyborg versus Nunes while Nunes has a fight. The reality is the women's divisions are not built yet. There's a company called Invicta, and it's all women, and they've been around for a while, and good for them. I've never watched one of their shows. I think they might be on UFC Fight Pass. Maybe the UFC is kind of feeding them as a female minor league system. I don't know that. But the reality is, Cris Cyborg is the best female fighter in the world. You don't need to say weight classes. If she can beat up all the other women, then she's the best female fighter in the world. Like Stipe should be the best male fighter in the world. He's the heavyweight champ. There's just not enough competition yet. But they're doing a great job of building it. I'm sure more women are getting involved in this sport as competitors and as people that just go join the gym that want to feel part of the team. Same way Lad wants to feel part of a baseball team or any kind of team. There's a real sense of camaraderie in joining a wrestling team where you have to do physical battle with each other, and at the end of it, it's all done. It's all done. There's a bond that you make in those practices that I don't think transfers to the rest of the sports. Maybe rugby. Football is still very much like society, where you got 50 guys on the team, and within that 50 guys there's going to be a bunch of different cliques. But wrestling, now jiu-jitsu, I got a friend, Matty Sprague, that's doing judo. There's something with those practices that make you feel good. So I think the women's sport is growing. Just overall, I do think there's a saturation problem. And it's a double-edged sword. If you take fights away from me and you only have fights every 3 weeks, I'm going to ask you for more fights. If you're doing a fight every single week, I'm going to tell you you're having too many fights. What's the answer? Well, the answer is success. Hopefully Bellator continue to be successful. Hopefully the UFC continue to be successful. I would hope that at some point the fighters are taken care of in some manner, whether it's health care, whether it's a small pension after they're done fighting, something, because if you don't make it in this sport, when you're done, man, the only thing you can do is go coach. Now, there's nothing wrong with coaching. There isn't anything wrong with coaching. Coaching's a great thing to do. It's hard to make a living as a coach. It's hard to feed yourself as a coach. So, in closing, I'm glad I didn't pay for that card. I really am. It was not pay-per-view worthy, but I enjoyed watching it. I did. If I didn't see it, it wouldn't have broke my heart. Well, we are going to find out shortly if it will be Brother Sin interviewing Randy Couture tomorrow, or will it be me? I hope it's Brother Sin. I think he can, especially now, if you guys reach out to him and kind of push him a little bit, he'll make it happen. He'll readjust his schedule. He'll make it happen. I want to thank a new sponsor. Oh, is that too soon? Hold on. I cannot thank that sponsor. That deal has not been finalized yet. So I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to thank Equifax.com and CarMax. Thank you guys for your support, along with Onnit and Amazon and Audible and Everlast. Those are all like the ones that I just mentioned there. You got to buy something for us to get something. So it's kind of cool for us to say they're a sponsor, but in reality, if we quit mentioning them, it's not going to make a difference. Whereas Equifax.com and CarMax actually sends old Brother Sin a check. So good for them and good for us and good for you.